Everybody, welcome back to TarHeelIllustrated.com. It's time for another Three Things podcast as the Tar Heels lose 83-81 to Villanova in the semifinals of the Battle for Atlantis in the Bahamas. I'm going to dive into a couple of things. Rolling solo with you in this one. I explained yesterday that I am not in the Bahamas. I'm back in the Triangle for football. If I went and covered the tournament in the Bahamas, I would not be able to get back in time for the football game Saturday night. I always prioritize football, almost always prioritize football when there's an overlap this time of year. But we do have two people in the Bahamas who are filing some stuff. I'm also filing some stuff as well, including this three things. So let's go ahead and get into it. The first thing I want to discuss is Harrison Ingram. He, through 5 games, appears to be this team's best player through 5 games. Now, I still think Armando is their best player, and then there's RJ. But what we're seeing from Harrison Ingram is a guy who is developing into a reliable third scoring option. He went for 20 today, 6 for 8 from the floor. He was 4 for 5 from three-point range, 4 of 6 from the line. Very efficient performance. And he fouled out with 3:44 left in the game in regulation. So he missed the final 8:44 in a game Carolina loses by 2 points. There is no doubt in my mind that had Harrison Ingram not fouled out, that he very well could have impacted the game that would have swung it on the Tar Heels side. They probably would have won the game had he not fouled out. Of course, fouls were a major factor for the Tar Heels today. Whistled 30 times for a foul, the most since 2015 when they were whistled 33 times in a game against Louisville. Jalen Withers also fouled out in regulation. Elliot Cadeau fouled out 52 seconds into overtime. Armando Bacot finished with 4 fouls. Cormac Ryan had 3 fouls. The fouls were all over the place. Trimble, Wojcik both had 3 fouls. It was pretty remarkable. Villanova shoots 36%. But Ingram was the one guy who was a constant throughout this game. RJ Davis took a while to get going again. He was pretty big in the second half and big in the overtime. There were periods where Bacot got some looks. Ryan got some looks. Bacot needed more. He only attempted 10 shots. Ryan was 7 for 12, finished with 18. But Ingram was just a highly efficient guy, and he's been very efficient this year. He's 12 for 23 this season from three-point range. That's 52.2%. He told me in early October, he told me that his three-point percentage was going to be much better on this team because he was going to get a lot of catch-and-shoot threes. When he was at Stanford last year, he said most of the three-pointers he attempted were off the dribble. And he said, look, man, I'm a much better catch-and-shoot three-point shooter, and we've seen that. A bunch of his today were catch-and-shoot deals. One was a flip-out, and that's what I think is we're going to see more and more of from this team is Elliot Cadeau and RJ Davis. They're going to recognize that Ingram's out there. He's got a presence that kind of hard to miss, even though there's sort of a stealthiness to his game, but his teammates will know where he is. They'll find him, and he can get the ball and get rid of it quickly. He's got a beautiful release, got a quick release. And at 6'8", he's a weapon out there. But I also like the combination of that and his old man game, his ability to back a guy in, to move a guy into the lane, get separation by getting a dude on his hip and getting a shot off. His 5th foul was a play like that. It's a questionable call. Questionable calls happen in games. He did that very same thing with about the same amount of physicality and contact multiple other times in the game. Didn't get the whistle then. He got it called on him then, and it was obviously very hurtful to Carolina's chances at getting a win. The second thing I want to talk about is Armando Bacot. And I'm going to go Armando Bacot and Eric Dixon. This is not a Bacot versus Dixon thing. This is more Carolina made two glaring issues in its approach Thursday about the paint or big guys, one on offense, one on defense. On offense, Bacot only attempted 10 shots. In fact, in my 5 takeaways, I listed in there when each of the shots came. 10 shots, played 34 minutes, 35 minutes. He has to get more shots than that. His team shoots 65 times. He needs more than 10 shots. They need to run the ball through the post more. You do that, I think you're going to get some kickouts and then reversals for open threes to guys like Harrison Ingram. Davis could get some open threes. Even Cadeau hit an open three today, so he's shown an ability he can maybe knock some of those down. Ryan, obviously, they love to set him up for threes. In fact, toward the end of regulation, Hubert drew up a three. David Sisk calls the hammer, in which Ryan sank it from the left corner. So this is a good kick out, reversal, skip pass, catch and shoot team. And you're going to get a lot of that stuff when you run it through the post. Plus, you're going to get Armando more opportunities to score, to draw fouls, go to the line. He didn't attempt any free throws today, which is ridiculous. He needs to attempt 6, 7, 8 free throws a game at the minimum. And he didn't attempt any today. That is a shame on Carolina situation offensively. They should get him the ball more in the post, and he has to be a little bit more assertive. There were times where it didn't look like Armando was winning the battle to make himself available. It looks like he was getting pushed off the block a little bit. He needs to do a better job with that. On the flip side, defensively, Eric Dixon had 34 points in 37 minutes. He was all Big East guy last year. He's a good perimeter shooter. He draws fouls, does a good job from the line, and talk about backing your guy in. He's outstanding at backing in anybody. So why didn't Carolina double? The defensive approach today was flawed because you have to double that guy and get the ball out of his hands and make somebody else beat you. That's not a great perimeter shooting team. Certainly wasn't today. Villanova was 5 for 22 from the perimeter today. He hit 3 of those. So make them get rid of the ball, make them try to reverse it and get other guys some looks and perhaps perimeter looks or long 2-point jumper looks. But they didn't do that. They never dropped anybody down on them. So they didn't go to Bacot enough, and they didn't help out with Dixon enough. There were 2 flaws with how Carolina played the game in the interior. The third thing I want to address is this team's grit. I don't think this is a bad loss. This is not a loss that's going to hurt them. It might bite them if they don't take care of business Friday, and if they don't beat Tennessee, and if they lose to UConn and lose to Kentucky, and maybe go ahead and beat Oklahoma, who actually looks much improved. They play them in Charlotte. They have to get some wins here against quality non-conference opponents, and Villanova will have something to say about the Big East race. They'll probably be a top 4 team in the Big East. So that would be a very good win for Carolina to have on the resume. But aside from that, just as far as figuring out what this team is all about and who they are, I like the grit. I love the grit that Withers plays with. I love the grit that Ryan plays with. I mean, he's making all the calls for the officials out there. When's the last time Carolina had a guy like that? Now, we'll find out what the ankle situation is later. I'm not in the Bahamas. I have 2 guys there. In fact, one of them is texting me, I think, about Cormac right now. I will check. No, not yet. Okay, so we'll find out what the deal is with Ryan. Whether they have him or not Friday, they're going to play either Arkansas or Memphis. They need to get one of those wins, but they also need to be gritty. I like the fact that they responded to Villanova's physicality, to that Big East style of basketball. I think RJ was really tough today. I thought Cadeau made some tough drives and defended well. I really like what Trimble was able to give them in some stretches. This was a team that didn't back down. And North Carolina sometimes has not handled rock fights very well. And there were stretches of this game that were absolute rock fights. And I thought it was a good sign. I thought the Tar Heels did a lot of good things. And even on a night when Bacot only gets 10 attempts, when they shoot 65, when 3 guys that are with 2 starters and their 6-man foul out, when the guy who's played their best ball in the Bahamas fouls out with 3:44 left in the game, and they give up a 34-point, 10-rebound performance on the other end, they still had a chance to win. And Carolina shot 43% from the floor. They were 37% from three-point range, which is pretty solid. A lot of that was Harrison, like I said, being 4 for 5. But I thought the toughness, I thought the fact that they held Villanova with no points the last 3:08 of regulation. I thought the fact that there were multiple times in overtime where it looked like Villanova had a chance to go up 2 scores and maybe a third score, and the Tar Heels kept it to where the last couple of seconds were meaningful. 2.6 seconds left were meaningful in this game. I think given the way things played out, Villanova maybe should have won that thing in regulation or should have won by 5-6 points in the overtime period. I like the fight that Carolina showed. Carolina didn't play well all the time. I think that they need to be smarter about going through Armando. I think Hubert needs to tweak some of his defensive approaches, and that if a dude like Dixon is doing what Dixon was doing, you got to drop down and double on him every once in a while. You got to throw him a different look. It's like in football. If they keep running off tackle over and over and over and over and over, and they're not throwing, you got to stack the box, man. Well, the same thing applies here. So I think this is a good game for Carolina. Plenty will be learned. It's a great film room game. They could have used the win, obviously, but they have a chance to pick up a good win Friday, whether it's Memphis or Arkansas. Then they get Tennessee at home next week. I think playing a physical game today will help them for the Tennessee game because Tennessee will be as physical and maybe a little bit more skilled than Villanova. That will be a tough game too. So if the Heels handle that well, we may look back at today and say, okay, that was a nice precursor to whatever occurs Wednesday night when the Volunteers visit the Dean Dome. Anyway, if you like this video and you're pleased with the fact that Carolina had some grit, and if you like the way Harrison Ingram played, go ahead and click like on this video. If you're optimistic that this loss was just a loss, it's not something that's going to derail the team like early losses did last year, go ahead and click like on this video. Make sure you subscribe to our channel. Hit that notification bell so you get updates every time we upload. And guess what? We're having a big time special, a Black Friday special throughout the Rivals Network. You can become a Carolina Tar Heel insider. Get 75% off a one-year subscription. Guys, that's unbelievable. It's $833 a month for a one-year subscription. So what's 25% of that? That's what you're going to be paying, like $2.09. $2.09 a month to get all the insight that we provide, the best message board you can go to that's respectful and informative, all the recruiting stuff we do for both sports, and so many nuggets and tidbits of information you're never, ever going to hear on one of these podcasts. I'm AJ, and I'll talk to you after tomorrow's game.